We're continuing today in Maseches Peah. We find ourselves in the last Mishna in Perek Vav and the first Mishna in Perek Zayin. So we're in Perek Vav, chapter 6, Mishna Yud Aleph, Mishna 11. Hakotzer Balayla. So an interesting case. Let's say one is harvesting his fields at night, Vahama Amer, or for that matter, again, one is gathering bundles of his field at night. So the common denominator in both of these cases is because you're doing it at night, and therefore you left stuff behind. You left bundles behind. It's nighttime, or for that matter, Vahasuma, right? Ultimately, or someone's blind, and as a result of his blindness, he leaves grain behind, produce behind, Yeshlam Shechacha. Even though, again, the reason I left behind the produce was because it's nighttime, or the reason the person left behind the produce is because he's blind, halacha l'maisa, the forgotten produce is still subject to the halachos of shichacha. So this is an interesting case. So the case over here is where a person goes ahead and has in mind that when they harvest, they're going to harvest the thicker stalks first, and then come back and harvest the thin stalks later on. The Bartanura writes, "Kevan de miskavin little hagasin afilu dakin l'shikha." Here's what's interesting. What this is based. So again, if a person has in mind to go ahead and harvest the thick stalks first and then come back for the thinner stalks, and he ends up forgetting some of the stalks behind, that which is forgotten is not subject to shechacha. Now, what's the reason for this? So the Bartanura explains very interesting, because halacha l'maisa, he's harvesting in an abnormal way, right? And normal harvesting is you just harvest. You take a handful of wheat, you harvest it. You're not mavchin. You don't distinguish between thick stalks and thin stalks. In this case, because he's harvesting in an abnormal fashion, therefore it is not subject to the halachos of shichacha. So the Bartanura says, because again, the halachos of shichacha only apply when you're harvesting in a normative fashion. Im amar hare ani kotzer almanas shama shani shochech ani etol yeshol shechad. Very interesting case. This farmer is a chacham, and he says like this: I'm harvesting. As I tell him, he's harvesting. I'm harvesting on the condition that anything that I forget, I will go back for, which is a great Tanai. It essentially, effectively eliminates the concept of shichacha. So the Mishna says, yesh lo shichacha. That which he forgets is still subject to the laws of shichacha. So in other words, the problem with this in general is any Tanai that contradicts biblical law is not the Tanai. It's what's called masna amash shakasov batorah, to no batal. This is a quote from the Bartanura. Anytime you stipulate, you're making a condition that runs contrary to Torah law, ultimately your Tanai, your condition is batal, is negated. So in this case over here, he's making a Tanai to effectively undermine the concept of shechacha, and therefore the Tanai, the condition, is batal. Beautiful. Mazel tov on finishing Perek Vav. We now begin Perek Zayin, chapter 7 of Maseches Peah. Kol zayis sheish lo shem basadas. Remember again, we saw that halacha l'maisa, so shechacha doesn't only apply to grain, but shechacha also applies to fruit forgotten on trees. So specifically we're focusing on over here is an olive tree. So technically speaking, if you're harvesting your olive tree and you leave behind olives, they're subject to shechacha. Now, what about the following case? Kol zayis sheish lo shem basada. Let's say you have a tree, and the tree literally has a name, which means the tree has an identity, a distinct and unique identity. Afilu kizayis hanatufa b'shaito. Even now, again, literally translated, even it has an identity because it has a unique quality. What's the unique quality? That the olives are so laden with oil that at the time when you harvest it, that the olive tree drips oil. It drips oil. So let's say again, it has a name like that, an identity like that, ushacho, and you forgot you forgot to harvest, right, the olives on the tree. Eno shechacha. It's not shechacha. Now, why isn't it shechacha? Because since halacha l'maisa, this olive tree has a unique identity, the owner is going to go back for it. So because we know for sure he's going to go back for it, therefore anything forgotten does not have a din of shechacha. The Medrash, when is this so? Bishmo, b'masav, or b'makomo. Either if the olive tree has a unique identity because it has a name, in other words, it's known by a particular name, as we'll discuss, b'masav, or again, the tree itself is so productive, right? It's so fruitful, literally its actions, or makomo, or because of the place where it's situated. So if there's something that makes this tree distinguishable and unique from all other trees, then lamais, again, it's not subject to shechacha. So the Mishnah gives an example. What does it mean? ultimately bishmo, that it has a unique name, right? Meaning, for example, shahaya shifchoni o by shani. So it's called shifchoni. Shifchoni means pouring. In other words, that the olives, this tree produces so much oil that they call it shifchoni. It's the tree that pours oil. Or by shani, it's the tree that embarrasses all of the other trees because it has such tremendous output. B'masav was an example again where a tree that's known for its actions, right, or its productivity. Shu osa harbe, it's a tree that produces many more olives or much more oil than any other tree around it. Bimakomo, what does that mean? Shu omid b'tzad hagat o b'tzad hapirza. So quite literally, the tree is situated in a unique spot. Literally, again, the gat is the wine press, or pirza means an opening, a breach in the fence. So again, the idea, ushar kol hazesim, and when it comes to all other olive trees, shnayim shichacha, if halacha l'maisa one forgot to harvest 2 trees, then that's called shichacha. Shlosha eno shichacha. Ultimately, if you forgot to harvest 3 trees, that's not shichacha. So it's interesting. So remember again, what bundles are to grain, trees are to olives. So by bundles of grain, if you forgot 1 bundle, 2 bundles, that's shichacha. 3 bundles, it's not shichacha. By olive trees, if you forget 1 tree, it's shichacha. 2 trees, it's shichacha. But once you forget 3 trees, it's not shichacha. So again, what we begin to see is different. But so again, if you forget 3 trees, it's not shichacha. But even if you forgot 1 or 2 trees, if those trees are unique in that either, again, they have a shem, a unique name, ma'asav, a unique level of productivity, or makom, or situated in a unique spot where the owner is not going to forget about them, it doesn't have the din of shichacha. Rabbi Yossi says, ein shichacha lezesim. So this is very interesting. Rabbi Yossi holds that halacha l'maisa, in general, there's no shichacha. There's no shichacha, right? There's no shichacha by zesim, by olive trees. Rabbi Yossi felt that olive trees are so chashiv, are so important, that they're just not subject to the halachos of shichacha at all. So the Bartanura says something amazing. He says, Lo Am Rabbi Yossi ala bizman sheba adrinos kesar v'hechreves kala aretz v'lo hayu zesim mitzuyin. So this is incredible. The Bartanura says, when did Rabbi Yossi say this halacha? This was by the Roman Caesar Hadrian. Hadrian came and laid waste to Eretz Yisrael, and one of the things that he did was he destroyed agriculture. He destroyed olives. So Rabbi Yossi was saying, therefore, in his time, the olive trees were so unique and so scarce that halacha l'maisa, there was no such thing as shichacha by an olive tree. But obviously, even Rabbi Yossi would agree that halacha l'maisa, if there was a plentiful supply of olives, then all of the aforementioned halachas would apply. All right, Shkai Chavra, we'll stop over here for today. Pick up with Mishna Beis and Gimel tomorrow. Wishing everyone a wonderful day.